Hey everyone, thanks for checking out this week's Deck Tech. If you like what we're doing here, go down, hit subscribe. Very, very helpful. If you really like things, go check out our Patreon, patreon.com/commandersbrew. You can help us make the show right there with your own money and get some really cool perks as well. But we got a new deck for you this week. Sean, what are we talking about?
We're talking about Sephara, Sky's Blade. She is the blade of the sky. If the sky wants to fight with a blade, Sephara is what it uses.
No problem.
It's a mono white commander with that alternative commander casting cost. We can cast her for 1 white if we have 4 flyers that we can tap, and she grants all of our other flyers indestructible, which we plan to take advantage of. So obviously, we need a lot of flyers to get that done. We're going to be doing this with cheap flying creatures or flying creatures with good effects, and token spirits, creature tokens with flying that we can make in multiples. We're hoping to go wide, we're hoping to ant them up, and we're hoping to be indestructible and just fly over our opponent's defenses and probably take them out before they can stop us.
I love it. I love it that Sephara has the one thing built into her that would stop this deck, which is board wipes. So that's
Yes.
sweet.
Yes. Okay, so let's not waste any more time and get into these neat moves.
Working on a
Neat.
move.
All of these neat moves are in a mono white deck, so we need a little bit of help. So we're going to get some help with Pearl Medallion and Oketra's Monument. Oketra's Monument making creature spells 1 cheaper because we're mono white, and Pearl Medallion makes every spell 1 cheaper. That also affects commander tax. So if we're going to pay Sephara's alternative casting cost, so the second time with both these artifacts out still cost just 1 white.
Not bad.
So we're going to be able to cast more spells, and Oketra's Monument, getting those tokens is amazing as well, because as I said, we're going to ant them up, we're going to go wide, and this is part of that.
This is it. And of course, let's just start talking about some of these flyers. There's a whole bunch of neat moves in here. Bygone Bishop, 2 and a white, 2/3, flying. You cast a creature spell for 3 or less, you get to investigate. That's card draw, where I come from.
Yeah, with a white deck, that's crucial. Like, we got to have that. Geist Honored Monk has an important job because it creates 2 flyers on 1 card. You get those 2 spirits. And as I said, when we're going wide, although the Geist Honored Monk doesn't have flying herself, being able to attack as like a 10/10 vigilance or something, that's amazing. And we're not going to talk about him, but I do run Audric in the deck. So if Audric will give the Geist Honored Monk flying, so a flying vigilant, everything now will be indestructible flying vigilance. It's great. Audric probably should have been talked about.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe we will talk about Audric.
Yeah.
Another good flyer, though, is Aven Mind Sensor. It comes down and stuffs your opponent trying to search their deck. They can only look at the top 4 cards, and having Flash will aid with that.
Can I share a story?
Yeah.
I remember this came out in Amonkhet. I was
Yes.
playing on MTGO, and my opponent put down an Evolving Wilds on their second land drop, and they didn't crack it, and it went back to me, and I was like, okay, I'll play my third land. Now I have 3 mana up, and I'll just be like, pass to you. And on my end step, they try to crack Evolving Wilds. I drop an Aven Mind Sensor, and they failed to find. There were no basics in the top 4 cards, so they went down to 1 land. It felt so good.
That's huge. I mean, that's the best limited Aven Mind Sensor that's ever happened, I think.
I loved it. It was great.
That's perfect. Yeah, this is good, right? We're gonna I think we're gonna stymie green decks more than anything else with this, which I think is totally fine because they're gonna have that mana advantage otherwise. So being able to sort of, limit the searchability of lands and ramping and stuff like that is going to be very good. That's going to help a white deck in general. So even if you're not stopping a tutor or something really powerful like that, I think Aven Mind Sensor is going to still be very helpful early in the game.
VV helpful. Mm-hmm. I love Twilight Drover in this deck. Although not a flyer, technically Twilight Drover does make 2 flyers for every +1/+1 counter on them if you pay that ability. And Oketra's Monument, other ways to make spirit tokens. We don't have a shortage of spirit tokens, so we are usually able to crank out spirit tokens pretty efficiently.
So speaking of those tokens, we want to get them out. We want them to be able to tap down for our alternate casting costs of Sephara. So there's a little spirit package in here. starting with Triplicate Spirits, which is the one that can convoke out for 6 mana and give you 3 spirits. Spectral Procession. In this deck will most likely be cast for white, white, white. So you can sort of ignore that other weird hybrid mana cost for another 3 spirits. That's a sorcery. And then Benevolent Offering is actually an instant. And it's 3 and a white, and it gives you and an opponent 3 spirits, and then it gives you, and could be the same opponent, could be a different one, 2 life for each creature you both control.
Yeah, we're gaining a lot of life that way to keep us alive while we're kind of going shields down to help cast Sephara or attacking. And like, so just convoking out the spirits is fun. Which ones of these are instant? So this one's instant. Benevolent Offering's instant. So it's a great way to do on an opponent's end step. Who they may be thinking like, well, you don't have any other flyers or ways to get them, so I don't think you're casting Sephara right now, so I'll hold my board wipe. But then you do this and you're like, oh no, Sephara's out. I can't do it.
Nice.
I'm excited to do that. Yeah, so that's how we're developing our board. We're going wide. We got a lot of tokens down there. Where Twilight Drover's getting big. Audric's pumping up the team. But Sephara herself does not have Indestructible. And if it's not our combat step, Audric will not grant other non-flyers Indestructible. And although there aren't many, sometimes you just don't have your commander. Like, so we have a lot of flyers, but they're not always Indestructible. So we're running cards like Eerie Interlude. So we're hoping to hold up a bunch of mana so that we can, like, once we get rolling, we're going to hold up 3 for Eerie Interlude or other effects to kind of keep everybody alive.
Yeah, totally. Also, next we're going to have to anthem up, like you said. We're getting all these tokens. We're going to want to make them as big as possible. So we're going to start that out with Cathar's Crusade, which is obviously one of the best anthem-ish cards you can get. It's a white staple. We're going to be putting a ton of +1/+1 counters on all of our creatures this way. Also, Eerie Interlude, if you ever have to do that with Cathar's Crusade out, you're going to be pretty happy because all those creatures go in and come out and see each other doing so. And then Dictate of Heliod's another great anthem. The 5 mana flash, +2/+2. It's kind of rare to see a general creatures get +2/+2 for that's this good. So I like that white gets access to it. I mean, usually it's like there's some colorless versions, but it's a little harder to get them. You have to meet some more conditions. This one's great.
Yeah. And let's talk about a few ways the deck has to kind of keep it rolling, right? Mono white decks have a tough time drawing. I told you we got some clues from the Bygone Bishop. Maybe we're doing some extra cycling. We put all the possible cycling lands and removal spells because if you don't need them, I'd rather turn them into cards we need right now. And this new card from M20, I just got I got my hands on a copy finally.
Oh, really?
And I've yet to shuffle it into a deck, but I can't wait to resolve a Bag of Holding. If in case you have not read it closely enough, every card that you discard goes into the Bag of Holding, regardless of what made you discard it. So if you're cycling, you're putting it into the bag. Every time you loot with the bag, the one that you discard goes into the bag. And I already told you, we're going to hold up some mana for an Eerie Interlude. Maybe we're holding up some mana to drop a Dictate of Heliod. This deck can, once we get rolling, once we have a good amount of flyers, I suspect our opponents won't be able to deal with them without trying to disrupt us. Because some decks just don't run a ton of flyers. So it's like, I'm going to be hitting you for 12 every turn unless you do something. So we're holding up mana to prevent that. But Bag of Holding is another way. It's like, well, I've been holding up this mana for a while. I think I'm going to crack this Bag of Holding and just get back all these things I've looted earlier for even more protection, for even more cycling, to just draw some more or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think this card is going to get really expensive or anything like that, but I do think that this is going to be a card we are going to see more in Commander. I think we're going to see it in types of decks like mono white, mono red, Boros, stuff that has trouble drawing cards. I think that, like you said, if you're including a couple of those like cycling lands, a couple of these spells like Forsake the Worldly, which is like exile target artifact or enchantment. It's a great spell. And it has cycling too, right? So like you're going to grab those types of spells. We're going to see those included a little more. I think they should be, white and red especially. And including a Bag of Holding just means that, we're getting so much value off of those cards, plus just the inherent ability of just looting in general, plus the fact that if you're in red and you can rummage or something like that just adds to the value of it as well. And the thing about Bag of Holding is that like these types of cards, they're always a risk, right? Because I could be discarding cards into the bag, and then someone destroys it when I don't have 4 mana up, and I'm like, oh man, I just lost all those cards. But the beautiful thing about this card is that you were discarding those cards anyways. Like, it's not like a thing where there's others, like similar other cards are like, you play this card, it costs like 5 or 6 mana, you get to look at like the top 4 cards and you put them in under that. But then if that's destroyed, then they're gone forever. Something like that, right? Like that type of effect. But this is just like incidental because of the discarding. The looting is a little expensive in that it's like 2 and tap, but it's still good. It's still gonna help shape your hand. It's still gonna help you draw into the stuff you need in the moment, and then it's gonna be able to just recycle it back later for value. So like I love Bag of Holding in these decks that aren't necessarily geared towards it, but and then also obviously it's an amazing build around for like looter style stuff, like rummaging, cycling tribal decks, any kind of thing where you're discarding on purpose basically is, I think Bag of Holding is going to be very good there, and quite good in decks that have a hard time drawing cards as well.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah. Sometimes it comes with a little bit of a package, but I think it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Finally, you're talking about keeping it rolling. Lore Seeker Stone is a great way to refill your hand as well. A little expensive off the top, but again, in decks like mono white, mono red, stuff has trouble drawing cards. I think Lore Seeker Stone is a real card. I think it's a real card you're happy to see when you get down to that 1 or 2 cards in your hand. I think you're happy to pay 5, on an end step after you've been keeping up something like a flash creature or whatever, and instead using that mana for Lore Seeker Stone. The 6 mana off the tops is the biggest problem, but otherwise I think it's pretty solid in those decks.
Yeah, I agree. So I want to talk about some surprises and discoveries. I did have one. I mean, it's not such a surprise in that it's brand new, but I just want us to let's just be mindful of brought back. It's a rare from, it's an M20 rare, right? I kept thinking it was MH1 because I heard LSV talk about it, how he's like, well, surely this was invented for Modern Horizons.
Right, yeah.
Right, but it's not. It's an M20, which means it'll be even cheaper for us. It's a white instant. You get to choose up to 2 target permanents that went to the graveyard this turn. So white can use it on like Evolving Wilds or Terramorphics. If we end up cracking those, we can get those back right out, which is a little bit more ramp for white, which is crucial. If someone does cast a board wipe and Sephara is not indestructible, Sephara will go to the graveyard. This is a really cheap way at instant speed to bring Sephara back, and now our flyers have indestructible again. Like, so your opponents could try to do 2 board wipes, 1 to get rid of Sephara and then 1 to get rid of your flyers. This prevents that from working.
Also bonus flavor if you do use brought back to get Sephara, because Sephara is the flavor text on the card.
Yeah.
that's fun.
As long as your courage remains, your life will not falter.
She's got
have
you covered.
Courage, everybody. Have courage.
Right? She's got you covered. But I think that means after all that, it's time for the budget report.
Little bit of budget. Little bit of budget. $83.
That's a little bit.
Most expensive card is Sarah Ascendant. Sarah Ascendant doesn't start with flying, but if you have 30 or more life, it does have flying and +5/+5, so it becomes a 6/6 life linker with flying, which is like, people like this is not, they would have written this if you have 10 more life than your starting life total, or like more than half or something.
Would they have? There's cards in M20 that say if you have 25 or more life.
It's true. I don't know.
I
mean,
agree.
This does seem a little bit over
exactly.
the top.
This is pushed compared to those for sure.
Sure. But if you can get this turn 1, it helps you get out of Sephara later, or you can just beat down with this and take a person to like 18-12 life before they can really stabilize, and then it's like, okay, cool, you're 1 down and I'm moving on to my other opponents next.
Yeah, this card is a real bummer to see across the board. It's gonna kill you if it comes out turn 1. Next is Magus of the Moat. No question, this card would be, not super expensive, but it's like $750. It's imitating one of the more expensive cards in Magic, Moat. So yeah, creatures without flying can't attack. That's fine. That's great. No one can attack you, and you can attack everybody.
And Pearl Medallion's the third most expensive card in the deck. So like, and that is a ramp spell, sort of. It makes our spells cheaper, so that is very good for the deck. But you could replace this with another 2-mana rock like Felwar Stone, or I always like Everflowing Chalice, because it could be a 2-mana rock, but it could be more. So I mean, we've got other options to budget to replace this, but none of them will be quite as perfect as this in the deck.
Perfect.
Pear Medallion. I wrote Pear Medallion in the notes.
Perfect.
Pear Medallion.
So let's talk about our favorite cards in the deck.
Ooh, Andy, you got a nice one. Now you've picked this one. I did not think of this one. This was you picked it, and it's your favorite.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I decided that. Well, I thought it was in the deck. Because when I thought about it, and I was like, oh, I think that's probably in the deck, and then it wasn't. So
truly, it should have been like this. I should have put this in.
It's a good card. It's Aegis Angel, so it's 4 white. It's 5/5. It's a flyer. It's an angel, and it says when it enters, it gives something another permanent you control indestructible as long as you control this. Well, of course, if you have Sephara and you play this, you pick Sephara. Now Sephara's got indestructible. Aegis Angel has indestructible because it's another flyer, and then you've got this like very difficult to remove combination of cards.
Wow.
So yeah, really good. Bodes well. You can, I guess on turn 7, sort of tap 4 flyers, play Sephara, then play Aegis Angel, and then you've got a board that's tough to get rid of.
Yeah. That doesn't seem like an unreasonable line of play.
Yeah.
Right? And I just want to, I don't think we talked about this, right? But like, I think Audric should have been talked about. But like, when we have Vigilance,
that should be creatures. That's your favorite card. Let's just say Audric's your favorite card.
Let's change it. I've changed it to Audric. Audric, Lunarch Marshal, shares keywords across all your creatures. So once we have flying and Vigilance and other things, I'll remind you that like Sephara herself has flying and lifelink. So now everything has lifelink. True. We have got a lot of different ways to get Vigilance. Anyway, if you have Vigilance, your team can attack with Vigilance and flying, and then tap and cast Sephara after your combat phase, which is a very useful ability.
Very useful, and of course, just the addition of Vigilance being very good in Commander.
It's so good.
Not as good in other formats, but in a multiplayer format, Vigilance is, I want to say king, but maybe king is not the right word. But Vigilance is one of the best.
Agreed.
Easily. Yeah. Great. Well, that's it. Those are the cards. Those are the cards. That's the deck. That's the style. That's the gameplay. That's what you want to be doing.
Oh man. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please let us know if there's a favorite flyer that you would want to put in that we did not get to talk about. You can take a look at this deck list over on the link below. But what's your favorite flyer?
Yeah. What is it? Let us know. Otherwise, we'll see everybody next time with a brand new deck tech.
Yeah, please watch Battle of the Brews.
Watch Battle of the Brews right here on YouTube. Goodbye.
Bye. Big thanks to all our patrons who make these episodes possible.
Yeah, and if you want to check out more comedy videos, check out our Brews News playlist.
Make sure you follow us on Twitch TV to see when we play live.
If you want to chat with us, head over to Twitter. We're @CommandersBrew.
And please hit subscribe to ding the bell and find out when we got new stuff coming out.
See you next time.
Bye.